Have you ever felt like you were speaking a different language than everyone else, especially in a place where you desperately wanted to belong? Have you ever known, deep in your core, that your way was the right way, yet been told it was somehow wrong, somehow uncooperative? Imagine standing on the precipice of your greatest professional aspirations, only to find the very ground beneath you crumbling, not because of a lack of talent or effort, but because you simply refused to participate in rituals that diminished your spirit. This is the story of Aisha Tanrakulu, a woman who understood that true strength isn't measured in the decibels of a pub or the hours spent in forced camaraderie, but in the quiet conviction of one's own integrity. It is a story of a hidden gem, polished not by external validation, but by the relentless pursuit of an authentic path, proving that some victories are sweetest when they are stone-cold, sober, and unmistakably yours. Aisha Tanrakulu, at 33, was a brand strategist whose mind worked in elegant, sweeping arcs of insight and precision. In the bustling, often chaotic world of Hamburg's advertising scene, her talent at Sterling and Company, a venerable and somewhat antiquated firm, was undeniable. Her presentations were masterpieces of clarity, her campaign ideas innovative, and her strategic foresight uncanny. She could dissect market trends with the surgical precision of a seasoned analyst and then weave them into narratives that captivated clients. Yet, her contributions, though celebrated in the boardroom, seemed to evaporate once the sun dipped below the horizon. The unspoken, unyielding expectation at Sterling and Company wasn't merely about the quality of one's work, but the quantity of one's presence at the after-hours rituals. The firm's culture was steeped in tradition, and that tradition demanded camaraderie forged in the smoky haze of local pubs, over rounds of beer and boisterous banter that stretched late into the night. Aisha, graceful and composed, would politely decline. Her evenings were reserved for quiet reflection, for learning, for cultivating the holistic well-being she believed was essential for peak performance, and for the occasional, treasured moments of personal connection with a select few. This quiet refusal, perceived as aloofness, began to cast a long shadow over her otherwise brilliant career. She saw her male colleagues, often less gifted, less prepared, but more socially integrated, leapfrogging past her for promotions. The whispers started subtly, then grew into a low hum. Aish is not a team player. She doesn't understand our culture. She's brilliant, yes, but a bit uncooperative. Each time a coveted leadership role was announced, Aisha would feel a familiar pang, a silent ache of recognition that her merit, her undeniable skill, was simply not enough. The glass ceiling wasn't made of incompetence, it was made of stale beer and unwritten rules. She observed how the firm operated, how decisions were often made not in strategic sessions, but during the hazy camaraderie of late-night drinking. She understood the unspoken code, the loyalty cultivated through shared hangovers, the bonds cemented by confessions whispered over clinking glasses. But Aisha knew this wasn't her path. She knew that true partnership, true synergy, stemmed from mutual respect, shared vision, and a collective commitment to excellence, not from forced socializing that drained her energy and compromised her principles. The air in the office, once filled with the promise of creative collaboration, now felt heavy with unspoken judgment, a subtle but constant pressure to conform. Her internal compass, unwavering and true, pointed her towards a different north. She watched the promotions go to men who, while perhaps affable after a few drinks, lacked her strategic depth and her quiet, unyielding dedication to true brand mastery. It was a silent conflict, a battle waged not with words, but with the stark, unyielding contrast between two opposing philosophies of success. The firm's insistence on a singular, narrow definition of team player became a barrier that no amount of talent could surmount, an invisible wall that kept her perpetually on the outside looking in. She saw the subtle nods, the knowing glances shared among those who conformed, creating a closed circle she had no desire to enter. The more she excelled in her actual work, the more she exposed the superficiality of their social metrics for advancement, and the more she became an inconvenient truth, a quiet challenge to their established, comfortable order. The internal struggle for Ashe intensified with each passed-over promotion, each polite yet firm decline of an after-hours invitation. It wasn't just about the career stagnation, it was about the erosion of her spirit, the constant feeling of being undervalued for the wrong reasons. The polite rejections were always delivered with a smile, a calm explanation of other commitments or the need for rest, but the reactions were often icy, or worse, laced with a patronizing dismissal. Senior partner Mr. Richter, a man whose career had been built as much on his ability to hold his liquor as his business acumen, embodied the firm's entrenched mindset. He would often quip, "Aisha, you're a genius with numbers, but genius needs to socialize a bit. That's where the real deals are made." His eyes, often bloodshot, held a glint of amusement, a subtle suggestion that she simply didn't understand the game. He personified the cynical gatekeeper, perpetually skeptical of anything that deviated from the established norm. Aisha's colleagues, some of whom she genuinely liked, began to keep their distance, wary of being associated with someone who didn't fit in. Lunch invitations dwindled. Casual conversations in the hallway became strained, and she often found herself working in a bubble, appreciated for her output, but isolated by her choices. The label, "not a team player," began to sting, not because it was true, but because it was a weaponized mischaracterization. Aisha was intensely collaborative, sharing insights freely, helping junior colleagues, and always prioritizing the collective success of a project. But in their eyes, team player meant conformity, meant blurring the lines between work and leisure, meant a willingness to sacrifice personal boundaries for an ill-defined notion of corporate bonding. She carried the burden of this unspoken judgment, a heavy cloak that smothered her otherwise vibrant professional life. The energy she poured into her work was immense, but the energy spent navigating the subtle slights, the whispered criticisms, and the constant pressure to conform was exhausting. She saw the firm, with its antiquated practices and reliance on old boys club networks, slowly losing its edge in a rapidly evolving digital landscape. Their strategies were becoming stale, their client relationships built on shaky foundations of boozy lunches rather than robust results. Ashe, with her clear vision and forward-thinking ideas, tried to gently steer discussions towards more modern, data-driven approaches, but her suggestions were often met with polite nods and then swiftly ignored. The culture was too deeply ingrained, too comfortable for them to question its efficacy. She started to understand that her talent was a threat to their complacency, her principled stance a direct challenge to their established, convenient ways of doing business. The emotional toll was immense. She felt a profound sense of loneliness, despite being surrounded by people. The quiet battles she fought within herself each day, between her desire for recognition and her refusal to compromise her values, began to drain her. She knew, with increasing certainty, that she couldn't thrive in an environment that actively worked against her core beliefs, that celebrated superficial bonding over genuine merit. The conflict was no longer silent. It was roaring within her, demanding a choice, demanding action. She knew she had to leave, not in anger, but with a profound sense of self-preservation and a quiet, burning conviction that her approach, her vision, was not only valid but necessary. The firm, in its stubborn adherence to outdated norms, was blind to the true value of what it was losing. The decision to leave Sterling and Company was not impulsive. It was the culmination of months of quiet contemplation and growing disillusionment. Aisha's departure was as understated as her presence had often been. There was no grand farewell speech, no emotional send-off, merely a perfunctory exit interview with an HR manager who seemed more interested in ticking boxes than understanding the deeper reasons behind her resignation. Mr. Richter offered a curt nod in the hallway, a dismissive, "good luck with whatever you do next, Aisha." His tone implied a certain amusement at her perceived naivety, a belief that she would inevitably flounder without the firm's established structure and network. There was no attempt to understand her perspective, no inquiry into why a demonstrably talented individual was choosing to walk away. The firm's indifference was palpable, a testament to their unwavering belief in their own self-sufficiency and the dispensability of anyone who didn't conform. Aisha, however, felt a profound sense of liberation. As she walked out of the heavy glass doors for the last time, the weight of their unspoken judgments and the stifling atmosphere lifted, replaced by a surge of determined resolve. This wasn't an act of desperation but a strategic retreat, a deliberate step towards a future she would design on her own terms. She carried with her not bitterness, but a quiet certainty that her path, though unconventional, was the right one. She envisioned an agency built on principles she held dear: merit, based recognition, genuine collaboration, a profound respect for work, life balance, and a holistic approach to creativity and strategy. She understood that sustainable success wasn't just about profit margins, it was about nurturing talent, fostering a healthy environment, and allowing individuals to bring their full, authentic selves to their work. This departure marked a pivotal turning point, a courageous leap into the unknown, fueled by an unwavering belief in her own capabilities and the validity of her values. She wasn't just leaving a job, she was leaving a paradigm, a restrictive worldview that equated productivity with presenteeism and camaraderie with conformity. Her exit was a quiet declaration of independence, a statement that integrity was non-negotiable. She knew that building something from scratch would be arduous, filled with uncertainty and setbacks, but the alternative, remaining in a place where her spirit withered, was far more daunting. The silence from her former colleagues, the swift erasing of her presence from their minds, only solidified her resolve. They might have seen her leaving as a failure, a confirmation of their labels, but Aisha saw it as the first breath of true freedom, the quiet beginning of an authentic ascent. She was ready to carve out her own space, to define her own success, far from the shadows of a culture that prioritized superficial bonding over substantive contribution. Her departure was a seed, planted in faith, waiting for the right conditions to blossom into something extraordinary. The transition from a well-established firm to the precarious world of entrepreneurship was not without its challenges. Aisha poured her life savings into securing a modest office space, designing a minimalist yet inviting brand identity, and meticulously crafting her agency's ethos. She named it Equilibrium Marketing Solutions, a name that perfectly encapsulated her vision: balance, harmony, and a focus on sustainable growth for both clients and employees. Her first few months were a whirlwind of relentless effort, punctuated by moments of doubt and exhaustion. She wore multiple hats: CEO, strategist, accountant, administrative assistant, and even cleaner. She leveraged her small network, reaching out to contacts who valued genuine talent and integrity over corporate pomp. Her initial clients were small businesses, some struggling startups, drawn to her agency's fresh perspective and Aisha's unwavering dedication. She built her team slowly, carefully, seeking out individuals who shared her values, people who understood that true collaboration didn't require after-hours pub crawls, but rather respect, open communication, and a shared commitment to excellence. She offered flexible working hours, encouraged personal development, and fostered an environment where mental well-being was just as important as project deadlines. Every success, no matter how small, was celebrated, not with forced fanfare, but with genuine appreciation for the collective effort. Aisha often worked late into the night, fueled by strong coffee and an unshakable belief in her mission. She built bespoke wellness programs for her team, ensuring they had access to resources that supported their physical and mental health. This holistic approach, initially seen as unconventional by some, soon proved to be a powerful differentiator. Her employees were dedicated, energized, and deeply loyal, understanding that they were part of something truly different, a place where their contributions were seen, valued, and genuinely recognized. Equilibrium Marketing Solutions began to gain a quiet reputation for its exceptional strategic work and its unique, humane approach to business. Ashe focused on building long-term relationships, prioritizing depth over breadth, and delivering results that spoke for themselves. She never badmouthed her previous firm, choosing instead to let her actions and her agency's growing success be her most potent reply. The struggle was real, the financial pressures often immense, but Aisha found strength in her purpose. She was not just building a business, she was building a testament to a different way of working, a proof of concept that success did not require sacrificing one's well-being or compromising one's principles. Every client win, every successful campaign, was a brick laid in the foundation of her dream, solidifying her conviction that the path she chose, though solitary at first, was leading her exactly where she needed to be. Her agency became a beacon for those tired of the traditional corporate grind, attracting talent and clients who yearned for a more meaningful, balanced approach. Meanwhile, back at Sterling and Company, an unsettling sense of complacency had settled in. The firm, once a titan in the industry, was slowly but steadily losing its competitive edge. They continued to operate on the assumption that their established reputation and their ingrained culture were enough to sustain them. They dismissed Aisha's departure as an anomaly, attributing it to her perceived lack of social integration rather than a reflection of their own systemic issues. Mr. Richter, now a senior partner with even more sway, often held forth on the importance of FaceTime and networking over drinks. He believed that strategic insights could be conjured from the bottom of a glass, and that loyalty was built during boisterous, late-night sessions. The very client Aisha had subtly, politely warned them about, a major beverage conglomerate named Viridian Corp., was becoming increasingly restless. Aisha had recognized the signs early on. Viridian's shifting demographics, their growing emphasis on healthier lifestyles, and their need for campaigns that resonated with a more conscious consumer base. She had suggested proactive changes, digital integration, and a focus on transparency, but her ideas had been brushed aside. Viridian has been with us for 20 years, Mr. Richter had scoffed then. They know how we work. And they appreciate it. His voice held a dismissive edge, indicating that he saw Aisha's observations as overly cautious, even a little alarmist. The firm continued to churn out safe, conventional campaigns for Viridian, relying on outdated strategies and a tried-and-true formula that was increasingly out of step with the client's evolving needs and the market's demands. The account managers assigned to Viridian were often seen nursing hangovers in the morning, their presentations lacking the sharpness and innovation that Viridian's forward-thinking executives now demanded. The quality of work began to slip, deadlines were occasionally missed, and communication became less precise, all casualties of a work environment where performance was secondary to participation in the firm's entrenched social rituals. The reliance on alcohol as a bonding agent, as a means of conducting business, began to blur the lines between professional responsibility and reckless abandon. The firm's partners, blinded by their own traditions and inflated sense of importance, failed to notice the growing disquiet within Viridian Corp. They mistook polite smiles for genuine satisfaction, failing to read the subtle cues of growing frustration. Their hubris was a thick fog, obscuring the precipice they were rapidly approaching. The warnings were there, in declining client satisfaction scores, in the increasingly pointed feedback from Viridian's marketing team, but they were consistently dismissed or downplayed. The firm was like a ship slowly taking on water, its crew too busy celebrating to notice the rising tide. Aisha's quiet warnings, once dismissed as the ramblings of an outsider, now seemed like prescient prophecies, though no one at Sterling and Company would ever admit it. The stage was set for a dramatic collapse, a consequence of their unwavering belief in an unsustainable paradigm, a testament to the fact that culture, when prioritized over competence and integrity, can become a company's undoing. The inevitable finally struck Sterling and Company with the force of a tidal wave. The scandal erupted around the Viridian Corp account, precisely as Aisha had implicitly warned. It wasn't merely a missed deadline or a subpar campaign. it was a catastrophic public relations nightmare. A pivotal, high-stakes launch event for Viridian's new health-focused beverage line, meticulously planned by Sterling and Company, devolved into chaos. Key agency personnel, including the senior account manager and a creative director, were found to have been intoxicated during the event, making inappropriate remarks and critical errors that led to significant brand damage. Details, scandalous and embarrassing, leaked to the press. Slurred speeches, a crucial presentation screen displaying a crude, unapproved graphic, and a very public, unprofessional altercation between agency staff and Viridian executives who were attempting to salvage the situation. The incident was a direct consequence of Sterling and Company's lax internal controls, their culture of excessive drinking, and their chronic underestimation of the client's needs and values. Viridian Corp., a brand striving for an image of health, responsibility, and innovation, was mortified. The fallout was immediate and devastating. News outlets, hungry for corporate drama, pounced on the story. Sterling and Company became a cautionary tale, their once sterling reputation tarnished beyond repair. The CEO of Viridian Corp., Evelyn Reed, a sharp, no-nonsense leader, was incandescent with rage. She demanded immediate action, terminating Sterling and Company's contract within hours of the incident, effectively severing a 2-decade-long relationship. The news reverberated through the industry like a shockwave. Competitors gasped, some with schadenfreude, others with genuine concern for the implications. Sterling and Company was in crisis mode, their partners scrambling, issuing hollow apologies, and attempting damage control that only made matters worse. Mr. Richter, his face pale and drawn, was seen barking orders, his usual smug confidence shattered. The scandal wasn't just a blow to their finances, it was a profound blow to their identity, exposing the rotten core beneath their polished facade. The very team culture they had so proudly cultivated, the one that had excluded Aisha, was now their undoing. The incident served as a stark, public indictment of their entire approach to business. The firm's shares plummeted, other clients began to quietly review their contracts, and the future of Sterling and Company, once seemingly invincible, was suddenly cast into grave doubt. In the midst of this chaos, a quiet thought began to stir in Evelyn Reed's mind, a vague recollection of a brilliant, principled strategist from Sterling and Company, who had always seemed a little out of place, someone who had consistently delivered impeccable work but had abruptly disappeared from their client meetings a year ago. The name eluded her for a moment, but the impression remained. A calm, clear voice that had subtly warned them about market shifts and the need for greater strategic foresight. Warnings that had been dismissed by Sterling and Company's complacent team. The memory, faint but persistent, would soon become Viridian Corp's desperate hope. The termination of the contract with Sterling and Company left Viridian Corp in a perilous position. Their new product line, designed to capture a health-conscious market, was now adrift, lacking the strategic marketing and public relations support it desperately needed. Evelyn Reed, leading Viridian through the ensuing crisis, initiated an urgent, comprehensive search for a new agency. She wanted not just competence, but integrity, reliability, and a clean slate. Her team compiled a list of top-tier agencies, but each seemed to come with its own set of baggage, either too traditional, too creatively wild, or too focused on sheer size over genuine partnership. Evelyn felt a gnawing frustration. No one seemed to truly understand Viridian's refined brand identity or its unique position in the market. During a particularly grueling review session, her chief marketing officer, Maria Sanchez, suggested, "Evelyn, do you remember that strategist from Sterling and Company? The one who always seemed so composed? Aisha Tanrakulu, I think her name was. She always had brilliant insights, even when their primary team was clearly struggling." Evelyn's eyes widened slightly. "Aish. Yes, that's exactly who I was thinking of. She was consistently exceptional. Do you know whatever happened to her?" Maria quickly did some digging, discovering that Ashe had quietly left Sterling and Company a year ago and had since founded her own agency, Equilibrium Marketing Solutions. A quick search of Equilibrium's website revealed a crisp, professional aesthetic and a philosophy that resonated deeply with Viridian's new brand direction: wellness, balance, and strategic foresight. There was an initial skepticism among some of Viridian's board members. A new, smaller agency? Are we sure they have the capacity for an account of our size, especially after what we just went through? One board member questioned, his voice laced with apprehension. Another added, "We need a known quantity, a powerhouse, not some boutique firm." But Evelyn Reed, a leader who trusted her instincts and was unafraid of unconventional solutions, pushed back. "We had a known quantity, and look where that got us," she stated, her voice firm. "What we need is a different kind of powerhouse." Aishe Tanrakulu consistently delivered excellence when she was stifled at Sterling. If she's building a firm aligned with her own values, I want to see what she can do. At the very least, she comes with a track record of principled behavior, which is more than we can say for most right now. Her words carried weight. The team reluctantly agreed to include Equilibrium Marketing Solutions in their urgent pitch process. The search was desperate, but for Evelyn, it was also an opportunity for true change, a chance to align Viridian Corp with partners who embodied the very values her brand was now championing. The memory of Aishe's clear-headed professional demeanor stood in stark contrast to the chaotic images still playing in her mind from the disastrous launch event. It was a long shot, perhaps, but it was a shot at something genuine, something clean, something built on merit, not on a culture of excess. The invitation to pitch for the Viridian Corp account arrived like a beacon of vindication for Aishe and Equilibrium Marketing Solutions. It was a momentous opportunity, but also a daunting challenge. This was the largest account Aishe had ever pursued, and the stakes for Viridian were astronomically high. Aishe approached the pitch with a quiet confidence born of meticulous preparation and an unshakable belief in her agency's values. Her team worked tirelessly, delving deep into Viridian's brand history, analyzing market trends, and crafting a comprehensive strategy that was both innovative and deeply aligned with Viridian's renewed emphasis on health and integrity. The pitch itself was a masterclass in strategic thinking and genuine connection. Aishe walked into Viridian Corp's sleek boardroom, accompanied by her small but formidable team, exuding calm competence. The contrast with Sterling and Company could not have been more striking. Aishe's presentation was devoid of corporate jargon or flashy, hollow promises. Instead, she spoke with clarity and conviction, presenting a data-driven strategy that addressed Viridian's immediate crisis while also laying out a visionary long-term plan. She highlighted Equilibrium's core principles: transparent communication, a commitment to employee well-being that fostered creative excellence, and a relentless focus on measurable results. She subtly, without dwelling on the past, referenced the very market shifts she had tried to warn Sterling and Company about a year prior, demonstrating her consistent foresight. "Our approach," Aishe explained, her voice steady and resonant, "is built on the belief that true brand strength emerges from a foundation of internal health. A company that values its people, that operates with integrity, will naturally produce work that resonates authentically with its audience. We believe in building partnerships, not just contracts, and in a creative process that is clear-headed, collaborative, and consistently excellent." Evelyn Reed watched Aishe intently, her discerning eyes assessing every detail. She saw Aishe's composed demeanor, her sharp intellect, and the quiet passion in her voice. She recognized the precise, insightful thinking that had always impressed her during Aishe's time at Sterling and Company, now unburdened by external pressures. Aishe spoke of mindful marketing, of campaigns that genuinely served consumers, and of a work environment where clarity and creativity flourished without the need for artificial stimulants or forced camaraderie. It was a pitch that spoke not just to Viridian's current needs, but to Evelyn Reed's personal values as well. The traditional agencies had presented grand, impersonal solutions, but Aisha offered a partnership, a philosophy, and a profound understanding of Viridian's evolving identity. Her pitch was not merely about advertising, it was about trust, about shared values, and about a vision for success that was fundamentally different from the one that had just led Viridian to the brink of disaster. When the presentation concluded, the room was silent for a moment, then Evelyn Reed broke the spell. "Aish," she said, a genuine smile gracing her lips. That was precisely what we needed to hear. The unconventional choice was quickly becoming the only choice. The news that Equilibrium Marketing Solutions had won the Viridian Corp account sent ripples through the industry. For Sterling and Company, it was a public humiliation, a stark confirmation of their decline. Mr. Richter, reeling from the loss of their biggest client, could barely conceal his shock and anger. He had dismissed Aisha as a lost cause, an uncooperative anomaly, and now she had not only survived but thrived, taking a piece of his empire with her. The irony was a bitter pill for him to swallow. Aisha's agency, once a nascent dream, was now a formidable player, managing one of the most prestigious accounts in the market. The transition was seamless, a testament to Equilibrium's professionalism and Aisha's meticulous planning. Her team, energized by the massive win, threw themselves into the work with a passion that had been absent from Sterling and Company's offices for years. Viridian Corp experienced a remarkable turnaround. Under Equilibrium's guidance, their new product line not only recovered from the PR disaster but flourished, exceeding sales expectations. Aisha crafted innovative, transparent campaigns that resonated deeply with consumers, rebuilding trust and re-establishing Viridian as a leader in health-conscious branding. Her strategies were sharp, her execution flawless, and her team's dedication unwavering. The success was undeniable, palpable, and profoundly authentic. There were no after-hours pub rounds, no forced social gatherings, no hangovers affecting productivity. Instead, there was a culture of respect, open communication, and genuine camaraderie built on shared purpose and mutual support. Aisha's victory was not just professional, it was a profound triumph of principle. She had proven that a different path was possible, that success could be built on integrity, wellness, and genuine merit, rather than on outdated rituals and superficial networking. Her success was stone-cold, sober, a clear-eyed testament to the power of her convictions. For Sterling and Company, the contrast was agonizingly clear. Their once vibrant offices now felt hollow, their remaining clients began to drift away, drawn to agencies that offered innovation and reliability. Mr. Richter and his remaining partners watched, helpless, as Aisha's star continued to rise, a silent, powerful reproach to their arrogance and their inability to adapt. Aisha, however, felt no vindictiveness. Her focus remained steadfastly on the future, on continuing to build an agency that reflected her values. Her success was simply the natural outcome of operating with authenticity, a clear demonstration that true professionalism thrives not in the haze of a bar, but in the clarity of purpose and the unwavering pursuit of excellence. She had built her empire brick by honest brick, and it stood as a beacon of what was possible when talent, integrity, and a balanced approach were prioritized above all else. Her journey served as a powerful narrative, inspiring others in the industry to reevaluate their own definitions of success and team. Aisha Tanrikulu's journey is a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in conformity, but in the unwavering courage to walk your own path. It teaches us that true team spirit isn't about forced social rituals, but about genuine collaboration, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to excellence that prioritizes well-being and clear-headed action. Aisha was labeled uncooperative and not a team player because she refused to sacrifice her values for an archaic definition of corporate belonging. Yet, it was precisely that unyielding integrity, that quiet refusal to compromise, which ultimately defined her success. She proved that the most valuable connections are forged in the fires of shared vision and authentic contribution, not in the artificial warmth of a pub. Her story challenges us to question the unspoken rules in our own lives, to recognize that the hidden gems of talent and integrity often reside in those who dare to be different, those who quietly pursue their truth even when the world around them demands conformity. It's a testament to the fact that when you build your life and your work on a foundation of genuine principles, your triumphs become not just personal achievements, but powerful validations of a different, more humane way of being. So, I ask you, where in your life are you compromising your true self for the sake of fitting in? Where are you being overlooked, not for your lack of ability, but for your abundance of integrity? Aisha's story illuminates a fundamental truth. Your worth is not dictated by others' outdated metrics, but by the quiet, unshakable conviction of your own heart. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Remind someone today that their true power lies in their authenticity, and that sometimes the most profound victories are those won with a clear mind, a full heart, and a spirit that refuses to be diminished. Let Aisha's journey inspire you to embrace your own unique path, because ultimately, your success, when truly yours, is always the most rewarding.